welcome back to another Exchange podcast. And you guys, I can't even explain how I feel right now with who I got in the building. Elijah James Jr.
Hello.
AKA EDub for me. You are, oh my God. I'm so happy to have you first and foremost.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
I'm so glad that you said yes to the invitation.
I would never turn you down.
I know. Well, say that again, because I'm asking you back. This is the first time that they're hearing you, but this is gonna be many more.
I'm here for it.
I stole you for today.
I'm here for it.
But you are a captain.
Yes.
I hear now.
Yes, I am.
I'm scared of that.
No, it's good.
I'm gonna tell you something. I was a little nervous when you went into being an officer. I've known you all my life.
Yes.
You are my brother.
Yes.
From another mister.
I'd say.
Literally, and another mother. Like, I think I've known you since I was probably like 5.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. We grew up in the hood, Grove Street. And you have been, what have you been to me? You've been more than a brother.
Thank you.
You have influenced probably a lot of my thoughts towards men and towards life. And what we're about to do today is similar to what we've always done growing up.
Yes.
I used to call it porch talk, which actually has moved into phone talk because we don't get to see each other.
That's true.
You're an awesome dad.
Thank you.
You are an awesome husband.
Hey, Kennedy. Hey, Tanisha.
Hey, y'all. And I'm just so proud of you. I am. I know. Can I say that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I also want to say that although my mother is my mother, your mother is my mother.
Yeah.
She definitely helped shape me, form me, raise me, keep me out of trouble.
Yeah.
Keep all of us out of trouble. She had
that was our
30
house.
kids. Yeah,
that was our
absolutely.
house. And I was one girl amongst, and I say this all the time on the podcast, I literally was the one little girl in the midst of, I don't even know how many brothers I have. I have one blood brother, but I have brothers probably everywhere that I really helped shape and mold some great things and some other stuff. But y'all were young men.
Yeah.
Yeah. And learning and growing, and it was a tough time. But today we talking about therapy.
Yeah.
And therapy in our community. I think it was on my heart this month to do mental awareness for a number of reasons, but mainly in our community, and nothing against anybody else's community, but I just feel like we grew up in trauma.
Yeah, I'd say.
So much so that I don't think we realized that we were experiencing trauma. It was normal.
Yeah.
Seeing, from the gang violence, it was just a regular thing watching people, leave here. It was just normal. And it wasn't until probably I got out of that, which actually wasn't that long ago, that I realized, like, this is not normal. Like,
yeah, I didn't realize it wasn't normal until you start to talk to people who didn't experience these things or had no clue of these things. You tell stories that, I don't know if you necessarily laugh at them, but you know, just a normal story, and the room kind of looks at you like, what?
It's silent. Yeah.
So then you start to pick up like, okay, maybe that's not.
Maybe that's not.
Maybe that's not the normal thing.
Yeah. And then more so, I think, as I started my therapy journey, I started to think about also the climate that we're in, but I started to really think about the effects that it had on men. And how men are taught growing up to kind of suck it up, toughen up, don't show your emotion. And I think about 2 years ago, probably not even that long ago, I thought about a friend of ours that we have and that I know now looking back was experiencing mental struggles, depression, to be one. And I didn't know how to identify it, and I didn't know how to help him. And looking back now, he's no longer with us. But looking back, I'm like, for the people, and not just the people, but definitely for the men who don't know how to reach out, don't know how to say, like, what, I guess from your perspective, how do we reach those men? How do we tell them that it's okay and that what we're experiencing, the gang violence, the stuff that we're seeing growing up in urban areas is not normal? It's not normal for us.
Well, I think where it starts off wrong is, I think, the way we're raised, and as children, as young boys, I think the men in our lives, the women in our lives, based on the community in which we were raised in, it we force these children to become men way too early, or we try to
Wow.
put that on them, like you call our sons, hey, it's my little man. He's like 5 years old. He's a boy. He's know nothing, and
Yeah.
we try to force this macho. I guess what we think is macho, this macho image onto these children, and I think that's where it starts, and then I think that causes this hard exterior. So now this kid keeps things in and only shares jokes or shares.
What's acceptable,
Yeah,
basically?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. So when you're hurting, you're kind of like, I'm gonna suck it up and men cry in the dark. You get what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I think we gotta start over, change our mindset and how we raise our children.
Wow, that's a good point. I think I started. I don't know if I started that way because I think I had that perspective. I have two boys, of course, so it definitely was a rough growing up that they experienced from my point. Because though I'm a woman, I grew up with men, so I had a very hard, chuck it up. And it wasn't until I was like, wow, I'm telling them their whole lives to suck it up.
Yeah.
And then at a certain point, I was like, what's wrong? And realizing that they couldn't express to me what was wrong because for so long, and again, they got it early, but I'm just thinking, imagine 20 years of that.
Oh yeah.
Or 30 years of that, of suck it up. And then now it's like, express your feelings in relationships, in life.
It's like a total shift in
it's
culture.
a total shift. So it's
Yeah.
like, how do I feel? And had to really and still have conversations. I have what I call, my check-in brunches with them to kind of see where they are because I want to know they're growing up in a very different place than I did. My kids, again, haven't grown up in the urban area, but they have different issues, you know what I mean? And different struggles that I can't necessarily relate to. And at a time, I know I was parenting wrong. It's a big thing about, again, we only parent the way that we know how and how we've been raised, right?
Exactly.
So I think for me, it took a while, but I got to a point where I was like, hey, some of the things that my parents kind of molded me in
Might not have been the best.
might not have been the best thing.
Right, I got you. I'm sure it was the best for what they knew or they thought they were doing the best.
Exactly.
But also too, we got to understand that the world is very different for us than it was for them. It's going to be different for our children than it was for us.
Yeah.
But I think we create these barriers that our kids build and that I have built around me because if you think back to what our parents, like your parents with your friends, like of course you can't, you don't believe that you can share everything with your parents.
Yeah.
Some stories aren't for your parents.
Yeah.
But then when you leave your parents' house, they've always told you like, well, be careful about these little friends. You don't tell everybody all your business and da-da. So now
Who do you talk to?
So now if you got a
Wow.
little girlfriend or a boyfriend, well, I don't even know how it is for a woman, but as from a man's point, you get your little girlfriend and then you don't want to really share with her. You don't want to appear to be weak there. So it's
Dang,
like,
so who do you talk to?
I don't know. I think at some point with me, at some point, I just got old enough to realize that I don't really care how my friends see me or if they see me in a moment of weakness, perceived weakness.
Yeah, because that's not weakness. I
Yeah,
think
nah,
that's the
it's not.
misconception of
It's
it.
not.
Yeah.
But you gotta change your thoughts because, you know, sharing these soft see it's always soft because
Yeah,
I don't really know
me,
how
girl.
else
You be
to
like, oh, you soft.
yeah, I don't really know how else to explain it, but you share
Yeah.
these soft moments and it's kind of like
I guess vulnerable areas.
yeah, or vulnerable moments, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, vulnerable moments.
Yeah.
That's better fitting.
Yeah.
But you share these moments, you just learn to share them as you get older. It's just like, yo, I'm going through this with my wife. I'm going through this with my girl. I'm going through this at work. I'm going through, and then I think once. So here's the thing. I think if you're respected by your friends, right? If these are your friends. You respect each other. It's always like one friend who's like, I don't want to say a leader, but there's like the leader of the pack.
Yeah.
If that person shares, then you'll see the change. Like you'll see everybody just like, oh yeah, well let me tell you about this time, and they just start to share because it becomes more normal.
More normal. So creating basically, and that's what the exchange is.
Space.
It's a safe space.
Yeah, it should be.
It really is.
should
It's
be.
a safe space because for me, from the woman's perspective, even though I think we share more, I think growing up in my circle, I was the strong friend or perceived strong. I don't even know what that means. And sometimes I hate when people say strong, because just because I endured more doesn't make me any stronger. It just means that
You're more beat up. So
yeah, I'm more, I was about to say, I'm more damaged, if anything. And I think I got to a place where I was like, man, the normal way of kind of doing that, I couldn't do it anymore. The weight got to be too heavy. Again, it took a long time for that to happen, but it got to be too heavy. And I was just like, no, I really don't feel good. I really, you know what I'm saying? I'm really not okay. And I had this, and I don't know if you have this view of me, but like, Deb will be okay. She's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. She'll bounce back. It didn't matter what happened. And it really was really bad times that I went through alone. You know what I'm saying? And I really suffered in silence, cried in the dark, and didn't feel like I had people that I could go to and really say, hey, I'm not good. And it started really young, if I'm honest. Like, when I really look back, it's like, it's so crazy. And I'm like, nobody was checking on me because they didn't know that anything was wrong.
Yeah. Well, growing up, we always had our friends who we saw as those who needed the extra support.
Yeah.
And
I used to
then,
be so, I'm gonna be honest, I used to be so jealous of those people. That's real talk.
yeah, I got you.
No, it's
No,
real
I got you.
talk.
I got you. I see how that can happen.
Yeah.
But those, like, you almost become a victim of your strength, or your perceived strength.
Or your perceived strength.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I want us, especially this month, and for the listeners who are listening in, especially men, because I feel like men don't talk. It's so hard. I get men to talk in a different way, because I feel like I'm a safe space, and kind of have always been, that people, not just men, but people come and just kind of want to unload, right? But I know, I always say that I'm a gatekeeper of a lot of people's secrets, in the sense of people kind of felt okay saying certain things, but they won't tell their wives, or won't tell their moms, or won't tell. And I think, again, like I was talking about our friend, I don't think I don't think back then I had the tools.
Well, probably because you were still learning.
I was
your
learning,
stuff.
right? Yeah, I didn't have the tools to really like point people in that direction then. And I really want us to be better and more open in having those conversations and finding the safe space or the safe person.
Well, I agree with that, but when I don't want you can't blame yourself for that, because you didn't know. Therapy wasn't a thing that was was ever talked about when
ever.
Yeah, I didn't know anyone in therapy, unless except for maybe the really, really bad kids in school who got sent to special schools. They might have had a little bit of therapy, but it wasn't for just for the mental health of it now. Like now it's just, hey, people go to therapy twice a week, once every week at least, to
maintain.
just to have a conversation. A safe conversation.
I had an interesting conversation with my mom, but your mom too. Probably about a year ago, and I don't know if I shared this with you, but in kind of talking about Kim's death, right? And she said to me, well, I prayed for you. And I thought that was like, part of it was like, again, parents only give what they can give, right? But I was just like, but you never asked me if I was okay. And in that, it was just like, okay, this traumatic thing happened, and everybody just went back to normal life. And it was just like, Deb will be okay. And I realized growing up, that's where depression came in. That's where anxiety came in. That all that from the 12-year-old little girl, I still was dealing with that as an adult. And
because it's like we believe that because time has passed and because we don't speak about it,
you're okay.
it healed itself.
Yeah.
No, it's just in a box, still
It's in
sitting
a
in the
box.
back, waiting for you to go through, start unpacking and start moving stuff around, and then it'll surface. So yeah, even then, so to go back to that, me and you, we never spoke on that. But
I don't think we ever had a conversation about that.
Because my take on it then was, oh my God, it's grief. Like, it's a terrible, terrible thing. All I can say is I'm sorry. Like, I didn't know if I could handle what you may have said. And that's not like I was running away from it, but just to think now, like, had I asked and you said something like, oh God, I can't take it, what was I going to do with that? Like, I'd have probably like, oh shit, I can't take it either. Like, I don't know how my reaction would have been.
Gotcha.
So it's kind of like, we always avoid the hard conversations.
Yeah, and we need to have more hard conversations and uncomfortable conversations. I wish I had a bigger voice back then,
Yeah.
to actually say how I felt and say the emotions that I was going through and what was really going on in my head, because I was really losing it. I
Yeah.
was really like really losing it. I mean, blame. You couldn't, every emotion that you can possibly feel in that, like what I felt like a bad kid. Like what if, should I have checked on her earlier?
Yeah.
Like I had all
Oh God.
these
Yeah.
emotions kind of going through, and then everybody was normal. So I was just like, okay, well, I'm supposed to be normal. So I was fighting what I was feeling,
Just to fit in.
just to kind of, again, just be normal. So being in a room full of people and still feeling alone, that nobody really saw me, and wearing different masks and being successful in it. I think that's the scary thing about not getting therapy, not reaching out and getting help, is that years. And I'm, you know what I'm saying? I'm successful. I'm successful in career. I'm successful. And everybody's looking like, go, 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 go. And I'm like, you have no idea what I cry about at night.
Yeah. Well, we put on our game face and we leave our house and go lock the door behind us, and then we go put on a strong
Yeah.
face for everybody.
Yeah.
But a lot of that too goes to the character of the person. Like if you are, like you said, you're a lot of people's diary, I guess.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
you automatically leave your house and get on your phone and you figure, hey, I got to be strong for Sean, and I got to be strong for Tasha, and I got to be strong
Yeah.
for everybody. So now you carry it. Now you carry
Yeah.
their shit stuff. Sorry, I don't know the curse. You carry their stuff, and then you carry your stuff, and it's like,
I said on another podcast in regards to mental health, is that I think I've helped so many other people get through their stuff while I was suffering, and not knowing how, or not even having somebody to really talk to, and not thinking that therapy was cool. I love my therapist, by the way.
my question to you with that is, by listening to others, letting people write on your pages, do you think that was somewhat therapeutic?
So I do think in certain ways. I had a close friend of mine. I didn't realize it until a close friend of mine's brother committed suicide.
Okay.
And I remember it took me probably a couple of days to call her. Like I knew about it, and I was like, I had the same feeling that you said. Like, what do I say? What do I say? What do I say? And I remember driving to work, and I was just like, you don't have the tools in the sense of the suicide part, but you know what it is to feel responsible, because it was her younger brother, to feel responsible
Right.
for someone and feel like you failed and feel like you missed the mark. You know what it is to not have your sister anymore. So you have the tools, right? And I think that's for me where it kind of started, where I realized that in being able to give her something probably different than somebody else could, because I didn't know exactly what she was going through, but I could speak. I knew what that felt like. You know what I
Right.
mean?
You knew great responsibility, great loss.
Yes,
or
and
feeling responsible for a great loss.
I knew. I was about to say I knew what it was to almost have somebody. I had my sister in my arms, but to have somebody in your hands and feel like they slipped through, right? So I think in that process, I pray that I was a blessing to her, because I feel like I related differently, and I was there, be able to be there in a different way. And it didn't make my sister's death make sense, but it gave me more purpose of why God kind of allowed me to be in that situation. Right. And I think that's probably the crack of like healing. And I didn't realize it, because like you said, when something happens traumatic, you pack it up. I have so many boxes had so many boxes of things that I had just been like, keep going. No, can't handle that right now. Pack it up. Right. Keep going, that I had never really opened and unpacked. But I think that was, like, now that you say that, I think it was the beginning of me kind of understanding purpose too. And and understanding like, wow, there is a space for my trauma and things that I've been through to bless other people, and also heal myself in the process of that. And really reach out to going to therapy was big for me, because I've always been the therapist without having the credentials. I'm getting mine, y'all, but without having the credentials to be a therapist. But I had always been the therapist without having someone to actually talk to myself.
Yeah.
So it was a blessing. That's a good question. I'm over here thinking like, yeah, no, it really was. So what made you seek therapy?
So I figured, I think I pride myself on being the pages of many people's
Yes,
diaries as
you
well.
are. Mine too.
Yeah, so because I don't know, I've always had the ability to listen. So I think I pride myself on being a good listener. Like I just want to hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
Um, but honestly, I was going through a lot. Like I had lost a child at birth, and that was like like even like now I can talk about it now freely, but
Yeah.
for years after that I couldn't really speak on it because
Mm.
it may have been, it's gonna sound crazy, but it may have been my first loss. And I don't mean loss of like of a loved one or
Mm-hmm.
you know. I mean loss like usually things just seem to work for me. I don't know how that
Yeah.
sounds.
No, that
But that's just how it was. Like
yeah.
if we we get together and we're gonna we're gonna buy a house, and okay, so we save and then we get approved, and things just seem to
Work out.
work. So and we were doing, well, my wife, we were doing all the right things. She was making all the appointments, taking all the vitamins, doing whatever.
Yeah.
So when that happened, it was like I I didn't know how to process it. I didn't know what to do
Wow.
with it. So it was like, wow, like this is crazy. Then you go through all the emotions. You go through the anger. I'm angry at God. I'm angry at God, and then
And
I'm still angry
everything.
at
And
God.
God, like,
So
how could you
yeah,
do this
yeah,
to me?
because
Yeah.
where I work and what I do, like I've seen, um, like
Horrific things.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen like like drug addicts, and I mean drug addicts that I know from experience, from interactions
Mm-hmm.
that I know, go through a whole 9 months of pregnancy and it be the healthiest baby, and it's like, how the hell do?
How did that happen to me?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so that
So
that
why
was,
me?
yeah, that was my thing. So
Yeah.
but I mean, it was still years after that. Years after that, I'm like, I got some stuff I need to talk about, and
Yeah.
then as therapy, it's a shame because it almost seems like today therapy or therapists is almost like all the rage. Like you got, like it's, everybody talks about it on social media. You got Charlamagne the
Yeah.
God and these people and all these housewife shows, and everybody's got a therapist. And I guess now it's like I had time and means to seek a therapist, to
Yeah.
find a person or see what fit for me. Um, and I just went like, hey, let me go talk to this person. Like I think I kind of went the first time. It was more like, let me see how
Let me
hard I can
see.
shock this person.
I know. I was about to say, I can see it in your face. You like, could I
Yeah.
scare them
Yeah,
enough to
let me see how much shocking shit I can just,
tell them?
yeah.
Yeah.
But then I'm currently now, like I've stopped seeing the therapist that I was seeing just because after a year and a year and a half, it just felt like maybe our time had passed.
Passed. I got
Yeah,
it.
maybe
I
he
got it.
led me to where,
You're supposed to be.
yeah, I mean, to that moment, and then now it's time for someone else. So I haven't found the new therapist yet, but I just think that it is definitely something that people should try. But I think we also, on the other end, have to realize that one, the the person has to be open to it. Like if you're gonna go to the therapist and hold stuff back the same way,
Yeah. Yeah.
the
It
same way
doesn't
you do with your
matter.
friends, you might as well not even talk. Now you're just paying somebody to tell the same stories you've been telling. Like you really got to
Yeah.
go in there with the idea that, hey, I'm just gonna let it all go and see, and just not let it all go, but just go in there with
Got
like
open
being open,
mind.
like just being
Yeah.
open. Like, I'm gonna go in. I'm not gonna be guarded. I'm gonna be as open as I can be and just see where it leads.
I think what you said is something that the listeners really need to think about. And before you, if you're not already in therapy, something to think about. So I've tried therapy twice,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll share this. And the first time I went to therapy, I knew I needed therapy, but I wasn't ready. So
Right.
I went to therapy, and I think I also didn't have the right therapist. You have to find the right
Yeah.
therapist. And I went there. I think I probably went twice, and I was just like,
Yeah.
ugh.
Like
Yeah,
you'll
I
feel
was
it.
like, this not it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And years later, my therapist, who is my therapist now, we're kind of in the season of like, I feel like she's amazing. I feel like I got what I needed from her. I'll see her maybe once a month now. But with her, it was different. It was different for a couple of reasons. I think it's different where I was. I was really back up against the wall, no job for like 8 months, feeling the most out of control of my life that I had ever felt. I was in a very weird place. Not only had I lost my job, but I wasn't even sure that I wanted to be working in the field that I was working. Right. So it was like, I want my job, but I really just want money. Right, you know what I mean? It wasn't connected to the job at all. And then seeing this, which I was really working on the exchange, come and crumble before my eyes, because that the first time that I tried, it wasn't working, right? Again, I've always been good in career, and like I probably can't get relationship right, y'all, but financially and all of that, I've always been able to, do. So I'm just like, okay, I know what I'm supposed to be doing, but that's not working. And I was in a very dark place, and I couldn't do my normal thing that I do, was go talk to myself and talk myself out of it and put on a face. I couldn't. No matter how much I tried, like it was still like really, really bad. And I was like, I need to talk to somebody, because if I don't talk to somebody, I'm not sure how long I'm going to be able to manage in the space that I'm in. Like I was scared for myself.
Okay. Sometimes you need to get to the edge.
Yeah, I was on the edge. Like I was like, okay, something has to give, because my normal get back of what I've done so long for years and years and years to kind of get back, put the mask on. Now the mask got a crack in it. Like I felt like people could see me, right? I felt like I couldn't hide anymore. And it was just this like crazy, painful place of like, okay, I can't talk to my mom. I couldn't really say that to my brother, because he also has like this vision of like Deb's good. So just couldn't understand it. Even when I tried, which I did try to kind of have that conversation. It was just like, you know how you do? And it was like, no, you're not here. You're not hearing where I am. Like I'm really at the edge.
It was more of a quick pep talk. Like,
it was like,
come on, like you figured you need a push.
Like, I was about to
get
say,
back out there.
Like you know how you go on the sideline of thing and they give you the smack on the back, and it's like, get out there. You got what it takes. Like get back in the game. And I was like, no, you're not. You're not. You always get. It was that type of thing. You always. And I'm like,
this ain't that time.
This ain't that. Like I'm not good. And then also not having my dad, I think that only made it worse. So I was in this place like I was like reaching for stuff that wasn't there. Right. So yeah, I think for the listeners, again, I just want to bring back full circle is what you said is like too, knowing your season of therapist, because I think even your season of life and where you are, I'm sure that your therapist helped you through a ton of things.
Oh, it taught me a lot, yeah.
And taught you a lot.
Yeah, it taught me a lot.
But like where you are, sometimes my therapist is like, sometimes I think you're giving me therapy.
It's an exchange.
It's an exchange.
No, it really is.
It really is an exchange.
Really is, because at some point, me and like I started to know stuff about my therapist's kids, like because I think every human, every living thing gives off a certain energy. So I think whether you know a person forever or just several little interactions, you get a sense for who you think that person is.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this therapist does that with everybody, but I know the first 10 sessions, it was just me talking, and then eventually it was mostly him talking, and which was cool.
Yeah.
Because you get to see his experiences. And I want to say this to the listeners too. The first couple times you go to therapy, don't go to therapy and thinking because this person's a doctor, they're going to say something that's going to change your whole existence.
Yeah, your whole trajectory of life.
No. That's not what it is. That's definitely not what it is.
Not at all.
You got to, like you said, before you go, when you got to be ready. But you also got to have realistic expectations. Like if you're carrying, well, I'm older. So if you're carrying 40 years of baggage, of trauma and good experiences too, don't think this man's going to fix it in 40, or this woman's going to fix it in 40 minutes. They're not going to do it. No,
that is like, it's almost repeat that for the listeners. Cause I feel like people have the unrealistic expectation. It's almost like losing weight, and I don't want to use, but like you can't have been eating unhealthy,
Oh yeah.
gain 80 pounds and think you're going to lose that in a week. It's not realistic. And like
And
what you
listen,
said,
I learned that
yeah.
at work because we'll go to calls and it'd be like, this is always the classic. It'd be mom or dad having a problem with 16-year-old, 15-year-old, 17-year-old boy or girl,
Mm-hmm.
and we arrive and they're like, they tell you what happened and all right, there he is or there she is, go fix it.
Fix it.
So you do the best you can, but then you
Yeah.
tell. But I've always been real. I tell mom and dad like, hey, listen, you've been raising this kid for 17 years. I've been here 17 minutes. I'm not gonna fix that. It's no way.
Yeah.
It's no way anybody's gonna walk in and
fix
fix
it.
the way not give you the resolution that you're looking for. Not in this little bit of time. It's you got to build.
It's a process.
Yeah.
It's
So
a process. Therapy's a whole journey.
yeah.
I'm still going through my journey. Granted, I am not where I used to be, but there's times that I'm like, oh, that's still an issue. I'm like that still comes up. I still feel some way. I still need to work in this area or go back and relearn what I've learned in some areas.
I think with therapy, I think the benefit is, I honestly think you fix yourself with the help of someone.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for you to be open enough to say something aloud, like out loud to a person that you don't know, I think that's the first start of it. Because that person is not going to be like, oh, well, you were touched as a child and this is how you fix it. No, that's not really how you fix it. But for you to be able to share that with somebody, it's almost like it's not as but it's not as shameful, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Or or you were hurt by whatever whatever you're going through, whatever you're trying to get past.
Yeah.
I just think when you say it aloud to someone, it gives you courage to face it.
To face it.
Yeah.
It's hearing for me is definitely hearing myself say it. This month has been thus far even recording the podcast to be able to say like, hey, I've had places where I've thought about suicide is big. Like that's like, you know what I mean? Or to say like I'm depressed. I suffered with depression probably my whole life, not knowing what it was, not really understanding why I felt like that. I remember as a kid, I wanted to get up for school, not because I didn't want to go to school, but I had this like heavy weight and I didn't even know what it was. Like, but it was something that, you know what I mean? I remember
that's a good analogy. I like the way, because that's definitely those days where you're like, I don't feel like getting up.
Yeah.
It could be that depression.
It's depression. It was, for me, it was depression, but admitting that and saying like, no, you're depressed, right? Like, yeah, you don't have to stay there, but that feeling that you feel is depression. It's not, you don't feel, I used to call it sick. People used to be like, I'm sick. I don't really feel well. I'm sick, but I wasn't really sick.
Right, nothing wrong. Right?
Nothing wrong with me. Not a fever, not a cough, nothing. Right. But that's the only thing that I could relate it to. Like, I'm sick.
I'm not myself.
I can't get myself together. Like, you know what I mean? And not knowing or how to say it to somebody that was it, nor would people receive it.
Well, that's because humans, we always want to put our best foot forward, even growing up. So let's say the depressed friend, that because we didn't realize this friend was depressed.
Yeah,
you always had a friend who was like, this such and such is always a drag.
Yeah,
but that might not have been just their personality. They might have really just been going through something and just carrying around depression. But of course, we're not trained to recognize that. We just think like, your ass is always mad.
Yeah, I was about to say that. And it looks so different on certain people that you just don't know. It could come out in anger. For our friend growing up, I think he would always tell me about, I think it had a lot to do with his childhood and how he grew up. But I couldn't connect the dots back then. And again, I had depression myself.
We're all kids,
right?
Though.
Yeah, so I'm just like, it really probably, I want to say maybe a year or two ago that I really like looked back and was like, wow, you were really suffering and suffering alone. And I not that it's blame, because it's not blame on that, but I want to make sure that people going forward have somebody, whether it's the space, whether it's, reaching out and getting therapy or really doing the due diligence. Because a lot of it, like you said, the therapist is not going to fix you. No, You're not going to.
It's just a resource, though.
It's a
and
great
we got to understand,
resource.
too, it's got to be a resource that's accessible to you. Like, we kind of have all these resources, like all these benefits, all these insurances, and or just cash, or just the means to be able to get these things. And then there are people who are, all right, I don't have this in their mind. They we create excuses, but
Yeah.
we don't have the time. But they may really not have the time to seek out a therapist or go to a therapist because, hey, if I miss this hour of work, these lights are going off.
Yeah.
So we got to be also understanding of that. So I don't want anybody to hear this and think, oh, you think it's that easy for me to just go get it. No, we're not saying
Yeah,
it's easy.
I know that there are, and as we go throughout this month, I'm gonna find all these because I know there are also free services that they
Oh
have
yeah,
therapy, that you can get, and I know people without insurance because everybody doesn't have
right.
insurance that there are resources that way, but just anybody who is, whether it's men crying in the dark, whether it is people who are literally suffering in silence, I just want them to know that it's resources if you look for them.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing this month. Literally, like I'm making sure that people have those resources, and we're gonna blast social media with them because I want people to get help. I'm so grateful. I was telling a friend of mine, I'm so grateful just to be here. In a sense of like, I know that everybody didn't make it through that period of time.
What? Yeah.
And yeah, no,
Yeah.
seriously, they didn't make it. I wanted to switch gears a little bit.
Okay.
And talk about. I know you're a captain, but was there any kind of like taboo of, not that you shared with them that you were getting therapy, but was there any taboo in that arena that to get therapy? Because I feel like people need it. I want to tell you a quick story. So last year I found my aunt deceased. And the officer there kept on asking me why was I okay? Almost like he was kind of like, "Are you good?" Like he kept on checking on me, and I understood that, but I kind of told him, I said, "No, I deal with death a little bit differently, so I've learned how to push." Things aside for a minute. I
Right.
call my therapist. I know,
Right.
I'm like, this is what's going on. So I know I'm going to have to unpack it, but I can't do that right now because I'm in the midst of it. And he shared with me again. Here I am with he shared with me silently, but he was very kind of silent, of course, because I know people are listening and watching him and all of that. But something that he had gone through, very surface, but I could tell he wanted therapy. And even how I exchanged, my therapist's information with him, but something that was going on, but it seemed very taboo. Now I don't know if it seemed taboo because he was on the job,
Right.
but or if it kind of felt like he's like, not I want what you have, because I can't even imagine what he sees, right? I can't imagine what you've seen over your time as being an officer, but I'm thinking like, if anybody need therapy, I know that you guys need therapy.
Yeah. No. Well, you got to figure my career spans now over 20 years. So
Yeah.
in the beginning, it was unheard of. I mean, unless, there was always if you were involved in a traumatic incident, witnessed the death, caused the death, whatever. They always extended that, hey, these are the numbers you call. You can talk to these people. There's a thing called cop to cop.
I remember that.
Yeah. So things like that was always extended. Now, I don't know personally anyone from that era who took up on the offer. And I think mainly because it was
Was it the stigma behind it?
yeah. So here's the thing. So back then, it's like therapy was kind of synonymous with crazy, for lack of a better term.
Okay.
I don't know how else
No,
to
it
say. Like
was for a
if you
long
if you had a
time.
psychiatrist, if you had a therapist, something was wrong because it was the stigma that was on it. So you can't be crazy and also be tasked with the responsibility of being able to take someone's life, someone's liberty, someone's freedom.
Gotcha.
So it's like how do you juggle this? Like I don't want anybody to think I'm crazy because I'm not really crazy. I'm not gonna come out here and just commit a mass, like I'm not gonna do anything crazy.
Yeah, gotcha.
But
I need help.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you kind of I'm assuming most confided, if they confided in anyone, maybe they confided in their church but therapy was not like a normal thing that was spoken. Now, I'm not saying that people weren't seeking therapy, but
Yeah. They
it
wouldn't talk
we
about
wasn't going
it.
to talk about it at the lunch table. I mean,
Okay.
that never happened. But now, fast forward many years, and these things are way more normal,
Okay.
way more normal than they were. So we had an incident. I want to say August, maybe 2019, 2008, 2019.
Okay.
Yeah, 2019. It was like like a active shooter incident. People got killed and people got shot and cops got shot, and it was like a real
There's a lot.
traumatic
Yeah.
experience. And I know a lot of those officers did do the therapy and followed up and had their sessions.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if they continued, I don't know, because that's not our business. That's
Yeah.
your private thing. And that's another thing too. If you're gonna do therapy, you don't have to tell her where you're doing therapy. You just
Okay.
go do what you're doing. So it's definitely has changed over the years. It's definitely, I think it's helpful.
I feel like it should be mandatory for y'all.
Yeah,
To an extent, I just mean
I can go
like
with that.
I
I can go with that.
I feel like with the climate that we're in, and just I can't imagine. I think about, not to call my trauma small trauma, but I'm just saying from the things that I just saw growing up, from the losses that I've had in my life, I can't imagine that being my occupation or something that again is very normal because that's what I signed up for, right? As well as people like maybe in the army or you know what I mean? Like I can't see that. I feel like that should be as normal as them drinking water. Like that should be part of the criteria when you bring somebody on.
I can easily see it. I can easily see it being mandatory really shortly, because as you're
Yeah.
seeing with all the cries for police reform, I'm thinking certain things are going to be put in place,
Yeah.
because all right, again, you have the ability, or the you have the ability to take a life, take a liberty, take a freedom, and your last psychological exam was 20 years ago, if that's when you started, or it was 5 years ago and that's when you started.
Wow.
So we're changing daily. At least I am. I'm trying, like,
Yeah.
you might learn something new about yourself daily. So, and I'm not saying that um, that something has happened that's wrong, but there may be something that you saw, something that you were a part of, something that you heard that changed that changed you.
Yeah. Yeah. And just life.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah,
you talked about losing your child,
yeah.
right? Like we always don't know where everybody is. So even what separate to your occupation and what you do and how you serve the community and all of that, what about just life? What about divorce? What
Yeah.
about, you know what I mean, losing children, losing parents? I mean, all of that impacts you, and regardless of every day we walk into work, and whether you're putting on a vest and you know your blue uniform, or people are gearing up to be behind a desk or whatever you do, I just think life is still going on. So like you said, it's scary to think, oh, your psych exam was 5 years ago, let alone 20 years
Right.
ago, and now you're still again with the power that that person has, that they still aren't being checked on to say, hey, are you okay?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
is everything
I can
good?
I can only talk about my shop. So when I say
Mm-hmm.
my shop, I mean like where I work. And where I work, it is your how you're doing isn't really not not a concern. And I
Mm.
don't mean like how you're doing, like clearly if there's a problem where they think you're gonna hurt someone, that's
Of
gonna be
course,
addressed.
yeah.
But I'm just saying the simple things of depression, like
Yeah.
you're just not yourself. Like this guy's been happy go lucky for the last 5 years, and now he's kind of quiet in the back of the room all the time.
Yeah. Nobody checks on those people.
Yeah, that's a sign though.
Yeah.
It's a sign. Now, what I will say where I work, a lot of us take care of each other
That's good though.
on that level. Like there's a lot of friendships, and but I mean, I'm not saying that's going to prevent anything from from happening,
Yeah.
or prevent or help you through your whatever you're going through. But most people there always have a good right hand man or right hand girl that they deal
That
with.
they can,
Yeah,
yeah, interact and exchange
that's I'm not
with.
saying that's enough. It's not enough,
Yeah, it's not enough,
but
but it's something. And I think that, like you said, as time changed, hopefully people are really looking into mental health as it relates to everybody. I don't think it skips anybody. I think it touches everything. And especially when we talk about our officers, again, that officer, my heart went out to him at that point because I felt like I role switched. Like he was so concerned about me because he could not, he's like, you know, is it okay? Can I walk you in here? I'm like, no, I'm okay. Like I really, and I meant that. I
Yeah.
was okay.
But probably in his mind, he put role reversal. He put himself in your
he
role.
was
He said,
putting,
I'd have fell out
he,
if it was me.
I
This
was
was my
about to
honor. This was
say, he was thinking, he was just like, I just can't. And what I told him, I said, you know, I've experienced death in different ways, you know, way too much loss way too early. Lost my first child. I mean, like way too much loss way too early. And though there's a there was, I felt like the numbness is not numbness anymore. It's just how I process, and it's in a healthier way now because I know I'm not storing this. Like I just know I couldn't do that at that particular
because there was
time.
business. I hate to say business,
It
but
was
there were
business
things that needed to be
and
handled.
that needed to be handled. And you know me, it's no
Gotta handle
different than my dad passing away and people being like, I'm writing an obituary. I'm gonna handle that until I can handle me.
Right.
Because I know other people may need certain things in a different way at that particular time. But it was just funny. I left that experience with the officer thinking, I hope he calls my therapist.
Yeah.
I really did because
Yeah.
my heart went out to him. I was like, I really felt the weight of him more so than the weight of me. Like my aunt's death was affecting him more than it was me. Again, because he probably was looking at me like I wouldn't have been able to do what you were doing.
Or he could have an hour prior left the exact same situation just with two different people.
Yeah.
And that person was flipping. So maybe he came to you and said, "Oh, well, this is a real breakdown here. This stoic, this calmness, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is a real breakdown." Because we all our experiences, we try to, like from memory, like we experience something, we try to place it like to the next experience.
To the next experience.
To determine what's normal.
Normal. Yeah.
So he could have just left something or something way less serious where people was flipping out and he's like, he looking at you like she's not handling this well.
No, he was
quiet. Like he probably wanted you to fall on the ground. He felt better.
Yeah, no, I wasn't quiet. I was just, you know, I was handling what I needed. I was calling who I needed to call, you know, handling what I needed to handle. I called my therapist and told her, hey, she's like, are you okay? I said, no, I'm okay. I'm going to be okay because I know that this is not, that it's not affecting me. It's just that I can't respond right now.
I can't right now.
I can't right now. I can't right now.
But that too, that goes back to the very beginning of the conversation where you were saying that people expect you to be a certain way, and then you're by yourself and you're still doing it. I'm gonna handle this and texting, emailing.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
but I know we're about to wrap up. Do you have any words of wisdom, especially for men who are crying in the dark, as you said, or just struggling with talking to somebody or having somebody to talk to?
Talk to your man. Talk to, I mean, like, you know, your man or your boy or whatever
you refer to them as.
Yeah, your woman, however. Talk to your people if you can. I know sometimes it's hard, especially if you are in the because we're talking to men. If you're in the alpha role in your crew or in your family and you feel like if they see you in the moment of weakness, all the walls will crumble. I promise you, nothing is going to fall down.
Yeah.
If you can't talk, try writing. Try writing what you're going through.
That's good.
You know what I mean?
Like, I'm a writer, so maybe that's part of
keep a journal. You got I'm sure your iPhone or your Galaxy or whatever the hell is in your hand.
Yeah.
Go to your notes and just, hey, today is January 31st. I'm feeling this.
Wow.
And then it also gives you I don't do it as much as I should. Mm-hmm. But I in my phone just constantly, if I have an idea daily, I'll just put the date and the idea, and then I go back and reflect through the ideas. So you can do that the same way with your feelings, because then you'll know for yourself if you're depressed. Because if you're feeling glum or down or for days and days and weeks or twice a week, it's something's off. It could be a chemical imbalance. It could be the person you're sleeping next to ain't where it should be. Your kids could be, it could be something, but it's
Yeah.
just not. And I don't want to say not normal because I'm starting to realize that normal is not a real thing,
Yeah.
but it's,
Normal in whose lens?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But there's something's wrong.
Yeah.
If that's your thing. But like I said, if you can't speak to somebody, you write it down. And I'm not saying you got to get your book to somebody. You share it. You read it yourself. Like you reflect on yourself
Yeah.
until you build up the courage.
It's a lot of courage. I love that you said that.
Yeah.
I think being ready. You said that earlier. Being ready to seek counseling is a huge thing. Also having the courage to do it. And hopefully for the listeners, you don't have to be like I was with my back up against the wall to do it.
Yeah,
'Cause
hopefully you go
that's a
before
scary,
then.
yeah, that's a
'cause-
scary place to be.
Yeah. Because in that moment you're looking for immediate payback. Like you're looking for immediate correction. So
yeah,
you
satisfaction
Right.
almost of like I want this. I don't want to hurt anymore.
exactly.
And I think that's how a lot of people get to suicide because I don't think that suicide is necessarily, at least for me, people not wanting to live. Sometimes people just don't want to feel.
Yeah, don't want to hurt anymore.
And they don't want to hurt anymore. So before anybody, men and women, but especially not that I have more heart towards men than women because I love women, but I feel like men suffer more and suffer in silence more than we do. We're emotional creatures, so we talk a little bit more.
Yeah. And you can literally just walk into a room and bust out crying, and no one would be like, "Oh, everybody rush to you. What's wrong?"
Yeah.
If a man walks into a room, and it's just the way it is, walks to a room and just starts crying,
Everybody gonna be like, what's
going on with him? Exactly.
Yeah,
You're gonna be standing there, unless you're friends with everyone, you'll be standing there a long time crying by yourself because
Yeah.
it's just not what you see on TV and what
Yeah.
you've been taught. And your father worked 80 jobs and he was a coal miner and he came
Yeah.
home with soot in his lungs and he's the
Yeah.
toughest man ever. He got these hard ass hands. And
Yeah. My daddy.
Yeah.
Literally my
but,
daddy.
But still,
But you need people.
Yeah.
You need people. And we're all interconnected. I'm not even sure if that's the correct terminology, but I think we all need one another. And I think once we really start understanding that we'll lean on people around us a
We
little
have to.
bit more
We have to.
because
We
we
have to.
need one another, no matter how strong you've been deemed to all those alpha men out there. We need each other. And that's what we're here for. That's why you have people and family. And that's why I thank God for you.
I'm here for you.
Yeah.
I'm here
Oh
for
yeah. You
Absolutely.
didn't. He's been. I have a couple of pages of my diary that he keeps.
I'm here for you, for real. Just tell me whatever.
Yeah.
But like I said, and also too, those who don't have friends and family and feel alone, you can do it. You still can do it all by yourself. You just
Yeah.
got to work on you. You, like I said, get your journal.
Get your journal and start work. I like that. I like that.
Record little notes on your phone to yourself. Don't be so down. Put little stickies up on your mirror. You don't
Yeah.
think it works, but it does.
It
Like
does.
if you
Seeing it.
see an affirmation, you kind of
Yeah, no, it don't kind of. It does.
Yeah, so-
It does. They all around my room, so I
there you
know.
go. So
But I want to thank you for coming.
thank you for the invite.
Yeah, I love you. I appreciate
too.
you. You are my brother.
Yes.
Yep. Till we leave here, and even then after. But do you have anything coming up? I know I forgot to tell the people that you have your own podcast.
Yes, it's No Ops Podcast. It's a podcast. I love the shout out. It's a podcast to basically trying to bridge the gap between law enforcement and the community. So it's like, yeah, because we run into, like you said, this cop affected you in a certain way, and you're still thinking about this cop now.
I do. I
So-
wanted to reach out, but I think it's inappropriate.
Yeah, but there are a million interactions like that.
Yeah.
Like every interaction is not what you see on TV.
Absolutely.
And what my podcast does, it shows you that there are some cops are normal people. So
Yeah.
they're going from job to job, dealing with trauma to trauma to trauma, because nobody calls us to a cookout just to hang out. It's usually, hey, my neighbor's radio's too loud, or my wife cut me, or whatever it may be. It's
Yeah.
always a problem.
Yeah.
So we going from problem to problem to problem, and then punch out and go home and deal with your problems.
Wow.
So it's like your sleep is only time where you get your rest. Because if your home life is just a little off, you got to deal with that, and then you got to leave that, and then you got to deal with I got to deal with your home life and his home life and her home life.
Wow, I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, so it's like you never really get to cut off. And I'm not saying that cops are perfect, or what you see on
No,
TV
yeah.
is not a problem, because that shit
Yeah.
is definitely a problem.
Yeah.
But I just want you to understand where it comes from. Like I think we're always taught to put too much faith into man, and I don't mean man or woman. I mean
Yeah,
human, into
man,
human,
human. I
right?
got you.
So just because this guy or this girl has on this uniform and it's all shiny and it looks really nice, just
They're human too.
yeah, like right under that fucking zipper, under that shirt, right there is a regular human dealing with the same stuff you're
Same
doing.
you are.
Their husband's beating them, their wife is beating them. Their ends are not meeting.
Yeah.
The mortgage is due and they don't have it. Their kid is on drugs. They could be on drugs. Who knows what they're dealing with? So I don't want us to, because I see now heavy with social media. It's like, look at this cop. Yeah, and I like to tell people, yeah, that's a bad cop, but that guy would be a bad mailman. He would be a bad, if he was making donuts, he would be, yeah, that's his character. So it's
not the uniform. I got you.
We're gonna have a long time to live here on this planet with each other. We're gonna have to figure it out.
Yeah, I love that though. So y'all tap into No Ops podcast, and of course
Instagram. It's on Apple.
Instagram. It's on Apple.
Everything.
Yeah, I can't wait. I don't think I got season 2 yet, but
we have some jewels there.
Okay, I'm gonna listen. I'm listening and supporting. So I thank you, and we will see you next week.
Take care, everyone.
All right.